Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, and watch that shot. Yep, that was a 2 km snipe on a T-80U with the new top end of the line 10.3 main battle tank for the British, the Challenger 2-2F. And let's be honest here, it is more or less effectively stat-wise the same as the predecessor, the Challenger 2. And the question is already there, is the tank worth it? And at first I would have said no, but actually playing it, I like it. Yes, you heard me right, I like the tank. I don't like top tier meta, you know, map rotation, night battles, helicopters, but aside from this, that tank might just be in the right spot at the right time. It might be one of the slowest top tier MBTs, despite the 1217 horsepower strong engine. It still carries 63.6 tons around, and that is fully upgraded, exactly the same as the fully upgraded predecessor. And I think the main selling point of this tank is the Dorchester 2F armor package. It adds 1.1 tons, so that you end up with the set 63.6 tons of weight, and you can already see that is not really fast, is it? And then we have to talk about what the armor actually means, how good or bad mobility actually is, and then obviously the firepower. And the firepower might be slightly controversial, but I think that despite it being a rifled meme, this gun is actually pretty good, because you can reach 5 seconds of reload. That is up to a second faster than some other MBTs at this battle rating. However, it depends on crew skill, so unlike the Type 90, which has a 5-second autoloader, this has 5 seconds with a fully trained ace crew. Now, another thing is then the firepower itself. So first of all, it has stock APF SDS, which is great. The shot L23A1 will do the job versus the majority of turret rings, gun breaches, and especially for side shots, etc. Versus some Soviet plating or versus some Western MBT major armor packs, it will not do the job quite as nicely. Other tanks are better, but then also for hull breaking lightly armored stuff, you have the Shell L31A7, the Hesh Round. Sadly, I couldn't really find a scene where I could make use of this, but it's to be expected at top tier versus that composite armor, versus era protection, versus spaced armor. It deals really badly. And also the muzzle velocity is not the greatest, but there are situations where it might come in handy, so always take some of them with you, and those are the two stock shells. Then as a tier 1 upgrade, there is the L34 smoke round, and this comes in handy because it is then the third source of smoke. You have a smoke screen with smoke grenades, but also an ESS, an engine smoke system, and that also is much like the Soviet ones. And then with a 5-second reloads, deploying multiple smoke screens to smoke up allies at range, to smoke up camping spots, to give yourself a front line smoke screen so you can actually go into positions and you rob the enemies of vision. Despite them having thermal imaging. Talking about thermal imaging, this is a tier 2 upgrade, but sadly only for the gunner, but then it is crystal clear. Can you see it, how good this looks? This is not first generation, this is actually really sharp, even at long range, so I like this. So far so good. So the firepower is quite there. It doesn't have the hardest hitting shells, but at least it has stock APF SDS. There are some tanks that have still to deal with stock heat FS, which is just a pain. And the 5-second reload for a fully trained ace crew is really competitive. I actually feel like sniping with this tank is a thing. The other thing is then that the post-penetration damage effect, I don't know if I just had a bad day, but a lot of the enemies required 2 shots, as you will see in this final battle, which was actually, I think, the 3rd battle that I played in this tank, so you will see why I show you this one. Also, this ammunition loss thing pops up quite a lot, and I have no idea why, if I actually lose ammo or if this is just a bug, but that has happened quite a lot. So, is the armor good? It's not terrible. It is a bit more heavily protected, like your usual Western MBT, especially from the side. But that doesn't mean that you are invulnerable to anything that really can aim. And also there is this infamous driver's hedge. Yes, your lower glacis is better protected, but you know that gives you only resistance versus the 40mm AP FSDS from the Swedish boys. But versus everything else, it is not really that good. So that begs the question, is this a hull down god? The answer is, as long as they hit your turret cheeks, you might be able to deflect a shot here and there. But again, we have those really great shots like the CL31 something that bags 700mm, 600 and something millimeters of penetration. It will punch clean through. And then, yeah, you know, the combination of driver's hedge, turret ring, and gun breach area is a prominent center of mass weak spot. And that just is really painful. So even in long range sniping duels, you lose your gun breach very often. On the other hand, it soaks up a lot of the incoming damage. So it is kind of, you are indeed a second line of defense tank. You are pretty good at hull down in theory. In practice, map design, objectives, etc., it's not always there, and it doesn't really always allow you to play this kind of semi-strength. So is this tank really good from a stat perspective? Not really. Yes, the reload is good, but the rest is kind of meh. Another thing is I want to point out is this T-table on top of the turret. You never will surprise anybody when coming over a ridgeline. It is a massive thing to see. It is not really a weak spot in any way, shape or form, but everybody can see it with thermal imaging or just spotting with binoculars, and you don't have the engine power to come over a serious ridgeline really fast. So I'm kind of split, yet my experience was that I was very often at the right spot at the right time with this tank, and again, sniping with this tank, being a support sniper, trying at long range, although you don't have the best shot, at least you have a decent reload. So when it is more or less like the same as the predecessor, you save yourself to waste backup vehicles and you have a second backup tank. But it is again 390,000 RP, and then you have this tank stock, and if you enjoyed the Challenger 2, go for it. If you don't like the British experience, then no. I say how it is, but the meta is dictated by frantic gameplay. It is dictated by really fast maneuvering, by switching positions, by trying always your best to surprise the enemy rather than to try to make your armor work, trying to make the enemies with the shot. If you're the first one to fire, then go for it. But if you're in a standoff, this tank's armor will not really save it. So there is the verdict for this tank. It is really down to you. It's a bit like Mermaid, or how that thing is even called, which is infamous of splitting opinions. And I think this tank is again one of those tanks. A lot of people will hate it, a lot of people will like it, but at the end of the day, it is the least competitive tank. It is below average. That's just the truth. And yet, I like it. Maybe, just maybe, exactly because of this. So that's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like with it, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this video presentation and also the tank itself, if you played or if you have played against it. And as usual, we will see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.